Yeah, if you're a man who supports male expendability, you're fucking pathetic.
Where's your fucking rage? Your self-respect?
And if you're a woman who supports male expendability, you're just low.
Die for me. Die for me. Okay?
Male expendability is based on the belief that, from a reproductivity standpoint, one male can mate with many females, but females are more limited on how many offspring they can produce. In this way, a human population with many reproducing females and few males could grow more easily than a population with many males and a few reproducing females. In this model of male expendability, the patriarchal cognitive frame assigns the role of sex object to women and assigns to men the role of violence object, with male expendability being corollary to the sexual objectification of women. This form of male expendability includes the social expectation that men will step in to defend others from danger, work the most dangerous jobs, and risk death or serious injury by doing so. That's from Wikipedia. So, when people defend male expendability, they'll usually resort to the pro-natalist argument, which goes a little something like this. If you have 5 males and 5 females, and 4 of those males die, you can still make 5 babies, but if the 4 females die, you can only make 1 baby, at least just 1 baby at a time. If you view this from like a cold, robotic, sociopathic Ben Shapiro perspective, it seems to make logical sense on its face. But this is an incredibly fucked up and reductive way to view humanity. This is not how you should be viewing humanity. This is how, like, a farmer who breeds livestock would view his chattel. This is how fascists view humanity. This line of reasoning is incredibly social Darwinist in terms of human demographies, which is what fascism is all about. Fascists believe that human demographies are in constant competition with each other and need to be constantly expanding in order to, like, outcompete with each other. This line of reasoning feeds into the fascist idea that life is meant to be perpetual warfare, with males constantly expending their bodies and their lives, fighting on behalf of the collective, with women being the ones to expend their bodies to constantly replenish the losses. Fascist philosophy aside, whenever people bring up the hypothetical 5 men, 5 women scenario, it's usually trying to invoke some sort of primeval setting, like this is a tribe of hunter-gatherers in caveman times, at the mercy of the elements and on the same playing field as the animals. Let's say amongst this hypothetical tribe, the bad situation plays out where it's the portion of the women who die instead of a portion of the men. Oh no, not enough baby factories to meet output demand. What are we gonna do? I would say, what's the fucking hurry? Given an extra investment of time and energy, the few women can have multiple babies. Over time, they're going to replenish their numbers. It'll take a bit longer, but hey, I would prefer that to the existential insult of being deemed expendable. This is an argument that conservatives like to make. They'll say that if you are a male over the age of 18, then you have a duty to defend your country and your homeland.
Our country calls. The fatherland needs leaders. Personal ambition must be thrown aside in the one great sacrifice for our country.
This is bullshit. You do not have any duties that you do not choose. If you decide that you do not have a duty to defend your country, then you are correct. You do not have a duty to defend your country. That's why I will always have massive respect for draft dodgers, because they actually recognize their worth in spite of how the state would disregard it. Now, these conservatives will often say, well, if you don't want to fight for your country, sure, that's fine. Just renounce your citizenship, because citizenship is an obligation to submit to conscription, just like it's an obligation to pay taxes, showing that, conservatives don't distinguish the value of human life from the value of money. But that, I would have to say, women and people who are assigned female at birth will never have to be faced with this decision of choosing citizenship or their fucking lives. They're not expected to be expendable. They're not expected to throw their lives away for the state and the country. They can just retain their citizenship, no strings attached. Me, I'm just going to keep enjoying all the benefits of citizenship, content in the knowledge that I will never fight for my country. And if you wouldn't expect a woman to feel ashamed to say something like that, then don't expect me to feel ashamed to say something like that. These same conservatives who will tell you that if you're a man, you have a duty to fight and die for your country are the same type of people who will tell a woman that she has a duty to spread her legs and make fucking babies. They're just that, you gotta be that low to believe that. Now, this argument is just blatantly male chauvinist on its face. In most countries in the modern world, women are permitted to join the armed forces, unlike in the past. But if it remains only optional for them, yet mandatory for males, then it's pretty much just a token gesture. People who want to uphold male expendability will usually appeal to historic tradition, claiming that men have been the ones embodying the warrior role for all of human history and the hunter role for human prehistory. But from an anthropological standpoint, that's not entirely true. A book I've recently read called Gender, A World History by Susan Kingsley Kent goes into detail about how male domination isn't an inherently natural phenomenon in human societies. It is a social structure that has had to be established and maintained. An example the book gives is Genghis Khan, in spite of being a violent, bloody conqueror, was a very egalitarian ruler in terms of gender equality. He allowed women to join the army in equal measure with men, fighting and dying in equal measure with men, and even established one of the earliest age of consent laws. After his death, his successor undid all of that gender equality and subdued the female population by having his soldiers engage in institutionalized gang rape. It's very dark and fucked up stuff. And in terms of prehistoric gender roles, the popular understanding is usually clouded by modern revisionism.
It is thought the first Homo sapien marriage occurred.
Anthropologists have found that in prehistoric times, the activity of hunting for food was an egalitarian activity, evenly split among the sexes. Male domination didn't become a thing until after the agricultural revolution. Gerda Lerner goes into detail about this in The Creation of Patriarchy, another book I would recommend. Again, this is something that motivates primarily conservatives to justify male expendability. Now, when people hear the word chivalry, they usually think that it just means being nice to women. But that's just a part of it. The actual code of chivalry is much more than that, and much, much darker than that. Chivalry was a set of socially expected behaviors meant to define hegemonic masculinity in medieval Europe around the time of the Crusades. The primary emphasis of the code of chivalry wasn't just about treating women like delicate flowers. Like I said, that was just a part of it. The primary emphasis was supposed to be a detachment from your own life and a willingness to die in the name of Christianity. And as Susan Kingsley Kent explains in Gender, A World History, as Christian kingdoms began to evolve into European nation-states, the concept of chivalry evolved from being about dying for Christianity to dying for your country.
You still think it's beautiful and sweet to die for your country, don't you? Well, we used to think you knew. The first bombardment taught us better. It's dirty and painful to die for your country. When it comes to dying for your country, it's better not to die at all.
Yet another book I would recommend that expands on all of this is Jesus and John Wayne by Kristen Kobes-Dumez, which is all about how conservative Christianity has preserved this ideal of chivalry well into the modern day.
As our culture prepares males to embrace war, they must be all the more indoctrinated into patriarchal thinking that tells them that it is their nature to kill and to enjoy killing. Bombarded by news about male violence, we hear no news about men and love. Only a revolution of values in our nation will end male violence, and that revolution will necessarily be based on a love ethic. To create loving men, we must love males. Loving maleness is different from praising and rewarding males for living up to sexist-defined notions of male identity. Caring about men because of what they do for us is not the same as loving males for simply being. When we love maleness, we extend our love whether males are performing or not. Performance is different from simply being. In patriarchal culture, males are not allowed simply to be who they are and to glory in their unique identity. Their value is always determined by what they do. In an anti-patriarchal culture, males do not have to prove their value. They know from birth that simply being gives them value, the right to be cherished and loved. The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity and Love by Bell Hooks.